Mastering chord changes is essential to playing with confidence and flow. Yet most piano players struggle with it and they don't know why. If your chord changes sound choppy and disconnected, there is one game-changing concept that can instantly fix it. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to make your chord changes sound smooth and expressive. Hi, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Ashley Young Music Studio, where you are going to learn how to practice smarter, not harder. Let's dive in. Fixing chord changes comes down to this one game-changing concept. Are you ready for it? Movement. And there are two ways that the concept of movement gets in the way of having confident and fluid chord changes. First, there's too much movement between small chord changes. And second, there's not enough movement between large chord changes. So the first mistake is too much movement on small chord changes. And this is usually a result of improper fingering. And this is where a lot of piano players go wrong. They try to just muscle through and push through the awkward chord changes without ever really addressing what fingers you're using and do those fingers make sense. Let's take, for example, the Chopin Prelude in E minor, where the left hand is full of chord changes. The entire piece is made up of chords. We're going to look at measures 5 and 6, where things really start to get interesting with the left hand. Now, if I'm playing this and I'm just trying to read the chords and I'm kind of making up this fingering as I go, not only is it choppy, I'm also not committing anything into my memory. I'm just making up information, and sure, I'm kind of getting it on the spot when I'm playing it, but there's no way that I'm going to remember what I just did there if I try to play it again. So the fix here is proper fingering. There are many ways that you can go about getting to the proper fingering, and I'm going to give you 4 quick suggestions that you can pull from and draw from so that you have a better chance of committing to the correct fingering in your pieces with chord changes. So the first thing that I want you to do is look before and after the chords. So whenever we're talking about fingering, we always have to take into context what comes before and what comes after. This is hard to do when you are in the early stages of learning a piece, because generally you're playing a lot slower and you're not as familiar with what comes before and after. But fingering always has to exist in the context of what comes before and after. So you want to make sure you take into account what's coming before and what's coming after. One of the tools that I really love to help with proper fingering for chords and also like scales and arpeggios and things like that is the Alfred Scales, Chords, and Arpeggio book. In this book, you're going to find the proper fingering for the most common chord changes that you will encounter. And it's not going to necessarily ensure that every time you encounter a chord in any piece, you'll know the exact fingering that you need to use. But what it does do is it helps you to start to kind of like develop your own toolbox that you can put these different fingering and chord tools into. And so when you encounter chords in pieces of music, you'll have a lot more tools and base knowledge to draw upon so that you have a much better chance of choosing the right fingering. I also have 2 videos that might be particularly helpful with this. One video is a recent video that I did that's all about how to pick the right fingering in your pieces, so I will link that in the description. I have another video that's particularly about chord inversion fingerings, and that one comes with a free downloadable PDF, and I will link that one in the description as well. Now, like I said, none of these is a surefire way to ensure that you know every single fingering for every single chord in every single piece, but this will get you started down the right path. And something you should know is that I also help my students in Casual to Confident Piano Player nail down the exact fingering for any piece that they are working on. Because in Casual to Confident Piano Player, you get live sessions with me in Zoom and access to a community of other world-class piano players. There's always the space and time to ask questions about what fingering you should be using to make sure that you are doing the exact correct fingering that will serve you in playing confidently and musically. Now, I'm very curious what the hardest part about chord changes has been for you. Comment below and let me know so that I can get a sense of what you're struggling with or what feels easy to you. Let's tackle the second movement problem, which is not moving enough with big chord jumps. And I have to tell you, every single piano player that I've ever encountered makes this mistake in the beginning. It's like when they have to jump from here to here, they just want to slide across the keys and they're afraid to leave the keys. Why? Because it's scary. But here's the trick when it comes to large chord jumps. You actually have to move a lot. Your hand has to leave the keys in order to make an arc and land on the correct note. Let's imagine something real quickly. Let's say that over here on this side of the screen, you have friend A. And friend A has a ball in their hand and they want to throw that ball to friend B. And they're debating, how do I get this ball over to friend B, who is all the way over there on the other side of the screen? And so friend A thinks to themselves, okay, I'm going to roll the ball across the screen. So they bend down and they roll the ball across the screen to friend B. But what happens when they do this? First of all, they don't have any sense of aim, right? So they're just guessing at like how fast and how hard they need to roll this ball in order to get it over to friend B. And what is likely to happen is that that ball is going to like wobble, veer off course, lose momentum, and never make it to friend B. It's really hard for friend A to predict through rolling the ball where that ball will end up because the ground is uneven and the ball doesn't really have a clear path. But what if friend A decides to throw the ball? And more than that, what if they decide to take the trajectory into account and they think about how high does that arc need to be and how fast or slow do I need to launch the ball in order for it to land directly at the feet of friend B? Well, if friend A takes all of that into account, they can aim very precisely and they can ensure that every single time they throw the ball, it lands at friend B. If I take that first chord to the octave and I slide across the keys, first of all, I'm thinking note by note by note, and so it's really slow for my brain to think about where I'm going and what I'm trying to do. But the second thing is that this is wobbly and uneven, and I don't really have a sense of where I'm going. I have to be in control. I'm gliding over every single note, and I'm thinking, okay, stop. And so this really takes me micromanaging my left hand with an intense amount of brain power that I simply won't have if I'm trying to play the piece with any sort of fluidity. But if I can think of this arc, an arc through the air and leave the keys, I can control that trajectory and land at the proper place every single time. Now I'm going to show you how to practice this so that you can make sure that you do it every single time without fail. But if you're liking this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you never miss out on one of these helpful videos. I want to make sure that you are always practicing smarter, not harder. And then grab the link, share it with a friend, share it with a community of adult piano players so that they too can learn how to practice smarter, not harder. Okay, so here's a pro tip for when you are trying to master a large chord jump where you need to leave the keys. You're going to measure the distance between the first chord and the second chord. So I'm going to look at my thumb of this first chord and my thumb of the next chord. I'm going about this far. I'm going to cut that distance in half, and that is actually the height of how high my hand needs to go in order to be consistent with this arc and hit that chord change every single time. Now, once I have that distance measured, what I can do is implement flash practice. And flash practice is when I repeat this jump as many times as possible, making the first chord as light and fast as possible, and landing in a very heavy and accented way on the second chord, really reinforcing the height of this arc, the trajectory of this jump, so that it gets into my muscle memory and I know how to do it with accuracy every single time I play it. If you think back to that image that I gave you of friend A and friend B, what we're doing with flash practice is we are reinforcing that arc and the trajectory of the throw. And so you're doing this in a very hyper speed kind of way, so that by the time you slow things down and try to play it in tempo, it feels very easy for your hands and very easy for your brain. Now, if you're really serious about mastering those larger chord jumps, I have another video where I dive even deeper into exactly how to implement these practice methods, and I will link that in the description below and right here at the end of this video. But I also wanted to let you know that if you want to dive deeper into your practice routine and the way that you are practicing, to design a weekly practice method that accelerates your results, and to learn all about the revolutionary practice methods that can ensure that every time you practice, you are making measurable progress, then you need to join me in my free 4-day piano event called Piano Practice Lab. It's coming up in January, and I'm going to help you design that routine and teach you all about the practice methods that will get you results. Seats fill up really quickly, so make sure that you snag the link right here on the end screen and reserve your free seat and replays. I can't wait to see you there. Happy practicing.